Good morning. I'm Rick Sciacca. Been a member here at First Pres for, I don't know, a long time now, 10, 15 years, something like that. And this morning I was invited to share my testimony with you. So I wanted to go back and start out with what my life looked like before I knew Christ. I grew up in, I guess, what we would call today a secular Christian home. We were members of a church, but we never really attended it. Really didn't. And we never really talked about God in my house or anything. So growing up as a kid, I really didn't have any kind of sense of being spiritual in any way, shape, or form. And as I got older and into high school, I would say even less so. I was much more of the secular part. I was very, very self-centered, and any kind of attempt at spirituality, I always felt that there was this, number one, there was a big doubt in my mind about who God was and if he even existed. And secondly, the behavior standard that Christianity seemed to ask for. I just felt there was no way I could live up to that. And so for those reasons, I never really grew in faith at all. So as I got older and I got into college, I started to notice that there was an even more of a need for something. There was this constant restlessness. I know one singer has described it as the God-shaped hole. I didn't know it at the time that that's what it was, but I can now say that's what it was. But I just never had any real peace. And I always was just unsettled and anxious about a lot of things. And so, you know, there occasionally I would lift up a prayer over something, usually something really silly, quite frankly, and very selfish. And of course, those prayers didn't get answered. And so I guess it kind of pushed me further away from God. So the bottom line is that I just really wasn't looking to embrace God or be spiritual in any way, shape, or form. So when I kind of hit a crossroads moment and started to really become aware of a need was in my late 20s, I got married. And after about a year, that marriage fell apart. And I was crushed. I was really heartbroken by this. And I remember on one occasion, I'm a teacher. And on one occasion, I went into my classroom and I closed and locked the door. And I cried my eyes out, literally cried a pool of tears that just splashed down onto the floor. And I was just devastated by all of this. And so this to me was probably the toughest moment I'd faced in my life at that point. So I have to back up for just a moment. Throughout the course of my high school and college days, there was a friend in my life who was a very good friend. His name was Chris Conover. Some people here at First Pres actually may know him because he's been gone from the area for a while, but he was a member here. And he would just share with me periodically, not trying to jam his faith down my throat, but there were times he would say to me things like, "Oh, Rick, you're going through something tough. If that were me, I'd be praying." You know, and just those little things that Chris would say to me pretty regularly over the course of our friendship, I guess they kind of stuck with me because one night as I'm dealing with all this brokenness from my failing marriage, I remember thinking, you know what, I'm going to throw up a Hail Mary. It can't hurt. So I got down on my knees at the foot of my bed and I asked God for one of two things. I said, God, either please show me the way I can fix my broken marriage, or please just take away all of this pain and hurt. So I went to bed and I woke up the next morning and I still remember this even though it's been well over 20 years now. I knew that my marriage was not going to work. But at the same time, I had this enormous sense of peace around me. And it was like this huge weight had been just lifted off of my back. One of the analogies I've given over the years is when I was in the Army, we used to do these long road marches, 9 miles, and with over 100 pounds on our back. And those of you guys that do know me, you know I'm not a real big guy. So I was basically carrying close to my body weight on my back. And those marches nearly would kill me. At the end of those marches, though, once I had successfully completed them, there was just nothing that could beat the feeling of dropping that weight off of my back, and typically a nice breeze would blow through very conveniently and it would hit my back and cool it. It was like euphoric. Okay, this moment that I had was a lot like that moment that I had when I was in the Army, dropping all that weight from my back. And it was just the beginning of, if that was my only story I could tell you, it would probably be maybe even not worth it. But that's the beginning of me constantly taking these steps to move closer to God and get to know Him better, and seeing Him show up again and again and again in my life. And I just don't even have the time to go into all of that right now. But I have just seen God working so clearly on so many different occasions throughout my life in the years since then. So I would say how Christ is working in me right now. I would say there's several things. I've developed a hunger for God's Word and a desire to continue to get to know Him. So to that effect, I'm constantly here in church, in Bible studies, reading the Bible in my quiet times in the morning. I have a sense of peace that I never ever had before. It's just always there, you know, on a level that just never existed in my life before. And I would also say that I really learned how to forgive, which I really didn't. Man, I would hold grudges for the longest time when I was younger. And I don't do that. I'm able to really forgive. And I'm not talking about people that cut you off in traffic and make you mad. I'm talking about people that have like assassinated my character. I'm able to forgive those people now. And it's a beautiful thing, man. So I guess to kind of wrap it all up, I would kind of say this, that I walked the first about 32 years of my life wanting to know nothing really about God and not trying to get to know Him. And then now the last, 25 or so years of my life, I've had God in my life. There is no way I'm ever going to go back to the old life. This is my new life, walking with God. Thank you very much for taking your time to watch this. God bless.